Hey guys, it's Saria. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be showing you guys how I made these Dole Whip inspired Mickey ears. So let's jump into it. So starting off with the smallest ear template I have linked down below for you guys. It's called the foam and batting template. You're going to trace just 2 of these onto some cardboard and go ahead and cut those out. I like to use an X-Acto knife on my cutting board, but you can also just use regular scissors. Once you have 2 of those cut out, I'm going to be using this paint called Pale Daffodil. It's just some acrylic paint from Walmart as well as some white chalk paint. So I did go ahead and do a coat of white chalk paint on the cardboard first. 1, because I thought it would give it another layer of protection, and 2, because it would make the yellow paint pop, which meant I didn't have to put as many coats of the yellow paint on. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed through this, but I did paint both sides. And then I went to working on kind of the cup portion of the Dole Whip, if that makes sense. So I'm just using some really thin craft foam. This comes in a pack from Walmart. And I started by tracing the bottom half of a Mickey ear. I'm doing it on this orange piece because it's a scrap piece, so I was just kind of testing it out. I didn't have very much yellow to work with. So I'm just cutting out kind of like the bottom half of the same size ear that I just cut out of the cardboard. Once I had that cut out, I tested it out by just placing it on a pair of ears I already had made. And originally I planned on kind of popping the cup off of the ear to make it 3D. I do not end up doing that. It was so complicated and hard and didn't look good. So just make sure that it fits the same size of the cardboard that you made, and it's pretty simple. So as you guys can see here, I have my yellow piece of foam and it is larger than the ear. I am going to trim that down in just a second, but I'm just placing it on there to give myself an idea of where about halfway down is the ice cream on the ear, if you will. And right now I'm just taking a pencil and kind of putting in some squiggle marks. Because obviously Dole Whip has like a swirl effect to it. So I'm going to put those little squiggle marks in just to make it not so, commonly Mickey ear shaped, and using my X-Acto knife, I'm just going to take out little pieces of what I sketched. And then once I have it all cut out, I'm using some lightweight spackle. I just have this really small container, and I'd already used this on a lot of projects, so with what I had left, I just mixed in that same daffodil yellow paint. And that's the great thing about this spackle, is it looks a lot like frosting when you do projects like this, or ice cream in this case. And I'm just mixing in the yellow to give it kind of that Dole Whip color. Once I had that all mixed up, I am placing that into a piping bag. And the tip that I'm using is just a normal open star tip. It's not a specific brand or anything, but you can get plastic cake frosting tips at Dollar Tree. You can also get metal ones for like $1 at Walmart, and piping bags also you can get for a pretty affordable cost. So I just went ahead and marked where the cup of the ice cream will be so that I don't waste my spackle, because I knew that I had just enough to do this project. And now I am just piping the spackle onto the ear. So the reason that we painted the ear yellow is because just in case you have any gaps, I wanted to make sure that no cardboard was poking through. I wanted to make sure that it looked, like it was ice cream throughout. And then after doing the top, I am going to go ahead and do the sides. Originally, I did wrap this up. I just took some plastic wrap and wrapped up the tip of my piping bag so that it could sit overnight. But then I did realize that I needed to do the sides of the ear first, so I unwrapped it and then rewrapped it. But if you need to let this sit overnight in the same piping bag, as long as you wrap it up really good, it'll stay good for the next day. But as you can see here, I'm just piping along the edges of the ear. And then I will come back and do the back of the ear tomorrow. But spackle does need to sit for about 24 hours in order to set fully, so that you don't damage it or dent it or peel it off of whatever you've put it on. So this is the next day, and I've done both of the fronts of my ears, and I'm going in and doing the back. And then the day after that, as you can see, I'm in another new outfit. I'm showing you guys, it's hard. It's like plastic at this point. Super durable and definitely sturdy. So next I decided to go in with a flat skinny brush and just get a little bit of white paint on it, because I didn't like that the Dole Whip was so evenly colored yellow, because if you look at a Dole Whip closely, there's kind of like some streaks in it that are darker yellow and some that are a little bit white. So I'm just kind of adding some coloration to it to give it some depth and hopefully make it look even more like a real Dole Whip. Next, for the bow, I am using a piece of felt and a piece of fabric that I had on hand. I actually used this fabric to make my Moana ears on my channel if you want to check those out. But this is some fabric I had left, and this is probably my favorite method for making bows because I like the shape that it gives them. And then as far as how much fabric to use, the felt rectangle that you see there is 5 inches by 4 inches, and then I just cut fabric to fit around it. So I'm going to show you guys what I like to do if I don't feel like sewing. So I'm just going to hot glue my fabric onto that felt piece. The felt is going to give the fabric a stiffness, which is going to make it to where the bow doesn't flop over or look messy. And I'm starting on the 2 ends just by hot gluing them down. And then I did snip the corners of the fabric because it helps it fold down nicer when you get to the last steps of making the bow. I also trim off any excess if it's just too long on one side. And then I'm just tacking down the corners with a dot of hot glue. And then here I'm going to fold over my edge and glue it down onto the felt. And then my longer end will close up the bow. I also have other methods of making bows if this isn't your favorite. I think I have 7 bows all in one video. If you guys want to check that out, I'll try to remember to add that down below in the description box. And then the longer half, I am tacking down just spots on it so that the fabric doesn't buckle or have like gaps in it. And then I'm just going to fold that over and hot glue it down. Okay, so now you have this nice little rectangle and you're going to accordion fold it into a bow. So just kind of pinching it and creasing it until you like how it looks. Sometimes this takes me a couple tries, so just get it until you like, you know, the way the folds are falling for your bow. And then I'm just using that same type of felt as the piece to wrap around the center of the bow. So I did a little dot of hot glue and tacked it down, and then I'm just wrapping it all the way around the center of the bow and tacking it down again. So I decided to assemble the ears before finishing the like cup portion of the ear because I still just wasn't 100% sure at this point what that was going to look like. And it did end up working out, so no worries. But I'm using my ear spacing template, which I have down below for you guys as well. And I'm just going to make sure that I have the right spacing on these ears before gluing them down. I am using a Sharpie to mark where these ears go because this set in particular, I was having a little bit harder time probably because the shape was just a little bit different. And then you have a very thin space to work on right here, but we are going to cover up the edges with trim. So don't stress too much if it's not the prettiest glue job when you attach them to the ear. Make sure that you firmly hold down the ear so that you get a nice firm bond between the glue and the headband. And then once it's completely dry, I did go in and add just a little bit on the outer edge of the ear to reinforce it. So this is where I decided that the best thing to do was just to trim down the foam and glue it directly onto the actual ear itself. It just didn't look right when I tried to do this like 3D effect. So I ended up just pulling it off before the glue dried because I pretty much knew it wasn't going to look good. But unfortunately, I only had these 2 pieces of yellow craft foam, so I did need to use what I had and just kind of mark it to the best that I could and then trim it down. Once I did have both of those trimmed down, I'm just going to go ahead and glue that directly onto the ear. So just applying some hot glue onto the ear, I'm going to tap down the craft foam into it. Now, I didn't love the edges of this, so I had this really cute yellow pom-pom trim that I'm going to use to line the edges and add some detailing to the ears. But first, I'm going to go ahead and add on the little cup portion of the Dole Whip to all 4 sides because it's, you know, front and back. I believe the trim that I'm about to use is from Hobby Lobby, but I also have seen similar at Joann's, Walmart, and online on Amazon. But I'm just doing a thin line of hot glue and then tapping down the pom-pom trim into the glue. This also adds for another layer of reinforcement with how they are attached to the ears, which these are thinner than the average ear that I make because normally it's 2 layers of cardboard and fabric and stuffing. So I definitely think this is necessary. Just to make sure that it's nice and firmly attached. I also decided to add the trim to the sides, the bottom, and the top because I thought that it looked really cute and gave it kind of, I don't know, the vibe of a Dole Whip, if you will. You probably could add all of this trim before actually gluing the ear on, but I really do feel like doing it afterward benefited me because it gave that better bond from ear to headband. And this is what it looked like with all 4 sides kind of trimmed up. Now I do have these edges poking out that are like frayed and not looking super nice, so I'm going to trim off the really long ones, and then I'm actually going to take a lighter to seal the edges of anything else that's just little frays. Be really careful doing that because obviously, you know, fire. So now that the ears are attached and all trimmed up, I am going to go ahead and attach my bow. I did actually forget to put trim on the top part of that ear right there, which I do notice and add right now. But as far as attaching the bow, just hot glue it into the center and firmly hold it down. Make sure you let the glue totally dry. And that's it for these ears. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below for me if you enjoyed this tutorial and want to see more DIY Mickey ears. Bye guys!